Hello, Tadeo.
Nania.
We have some questions from our viewers.
All right.
Okay, so the first question is there an actual spirit of Christmas?
In some sense, yes, it is an elemental being. It has been largely distorted over time in terms of what it actually is. It is to some degree the being that has been recognized in ancient times by the name Kernenos. It has sort of an appearance, when it deigns to come into physical form, of a large humanoid with elk-like antlers, cloven hooves, kind of an elkish face, but again, somewhat humanoid. And this has been distorted over time into the idea that in your modern terminology has become the being you refer to as Santa Claus. Because the idea of the elemental being Kernenos was the being that energetically reflected positive energy to those who gave it positive, negative energy to those who gave it negative. It sometimes appears with a red cloak. Therefore, the idea of Santa Claus's naughty or nice list has been rendered from the idea of its reflective quality of positive or negative energy, returning in kind what it is given. The footprints it leaves as cloven hooves has been rendered into the idea that Santa Claus has reindeer, and the, again, antlers on its head give that impression as well. So the idea has become something quite different from what the original being actually is. It is the winter spirit. It is an elemental being. Yes.
Okay, and do you have anything analogous to that spirit like Santa Claus on Essassani?
There are elemental beings, but again, remember, the original elemental being that we have just described, Kernenos, is not necessarily exactly the spirit of Christmas. It is the spirit of the winter solstice. But it has again been usurped for the idea of your modern holidays. On our planet, we have elemental beings, and some of them do have a similar representation, but not exactly the same, because we do not really have the seasons that you do. And there are many different kinds of functions that our elemental beings will perform on Essassani than what is necessary to be performed or represented on Earth.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Some current things, like, what was the purpose of the monolith in Utah? And can you tell us anything about what its origin was? What was the purpose? Who put it there? Why'd they do it? And why did it suddenly disappear?
We cannot give you much about the origin itself, but we can describe the basic purpose, which is to instill the concept of mystery, to allow you to begin to ponder things from another dimension, from another reality, no matter what the original intention of the beings that may have erected it and taken it down or moved it, or put them up in different areas, because they have appeared in different countries on your planet and also have been removed. This is a coordinated effort to put you in touch with the idea of other realities, other dimensions that are touching your world. Even if it was created by a human, they have in some sense been spiritually guided to do these things in order to allow you to pass through into another reality, because the energy has now shifted. And part of the energy of the new shift is that of the energy of mystery and exploring your connections to other dimensions and other beings who may be communicating with you in ways you may not have expected. So that is the basic symbol or purpose of the idea, but we cannot at this time go into the exact origin of it.
Okay, it's kind of interesting. It reminds me of crop circles, and the people who copy them and make them also are actually participating without realizing it in helping consciousness.
In some way, shape, or form, regardless of their intention, yes. The idea, again, that crop circles are a form of communication from other dimensional, higher dimensional consciousness, and of course involving the earth consciousness of Gaia itself. So there is some similar idea here, and you may actually begin to see more different kinds of things appearing here and there to represent this concept of opening your minds to the mysteries of other realities.
Yeah, it was interesting that it's triangular shaped.
Yes.
Yeah, monolith.
Yes.
Wasn't that what his original intention was, for it to be tetrahedral?
Are you referring to the idea of the filmmaker?
Yes,
Yes.
2001.
The idea actually in the original literature was more pyramidal.
So we just love those triangles.
And the triangles love all of you.
Can you update us on how things are progressing from your vantage point regarding COVID and the journey that we as a civilization are on with that?
Many of you are making progress. As we have said, you have now shifted into a new energy that will allow for more availability, more accessibility, more organization in a synchronistic way, more of the leveling out of the overall frequency so that you can accelerate forward if you are willing to take advantage of that. And of course, again, the idea being that you are coming into scientific realization, medical realization, that what you are passing through now will, over a short period of time, relatively speaking, begin to disappear, begin to go away. And again, all of these things are indicative of your opportunity to take advantage of moving in a more positive direction.
So I know one of our viewers asked if it's possible to create a permission slip that would make you immune or something like that. And I was thinking about that and wondered what your take is on how to work with the idea of permission slips, but at the same time recognize that just because someone creates a permission slip, it just depends on your belief system, right?
Yes, well, you have just answered the question.
Well, maybe you could build
Maybe.
that idea.
Maybe. The idea, again, of course, it's possible. As we often say, however, the real question is it probable? Is it relevant? Is it going to be something that is actually the path of least resistance for your belief system? Many people will, in some sense, wish that they can do this. And again, it's always possible. But if they're not really in touch deep down with what they really truly believe is possible for them, probable for them, relevant for them, they may not necessarily be able to attract themselves to a permission slip that will have that effect of immunity. So they have to have real, honest self-investigation, self-evaluation, real transparency within themselves, and let it be okay if you are at this time not able to create or attract a permission slip that would allow you to experience immunity. The idea is to take the path of least resistance no matter how it looks, and not to necessarily block anything that would actually be the path of least resistance for you just because you don't wish it to be so. So the idea is to pay attention more deeply to the synchronicity that comes into your life. If you are clear within your relationship to your belief systems, synchronicity will show you what the path of least resistance for you actually is that will work. So do not judge, do not invalidate anything. Allow yourself to let synchronicity show you, by bringing you the opportunities you are available to act on as the path of least resistance, and at the same time recognizing that negative synchronicity can also serve a positive purpose by preventing you from going down a path that is not yours at this time. Was that enough of an elaboration?
Yes, it's interesting, the challenge of understanding whether or not you're choosing a permission slip and you're quote unquote deluding yourself into thinking that that's going to solve something.
Well, that's why we say it takes great honesty within the self to understand the reason why you are asking for something to happen in a certain way, because it can very quickly go into insistence and avoidance of what is actually going on within your own belief system and what is going on within the fear-based beliefs that you may be holding on to, insisting that it has to happen in what you typically call a more spiritual way, when in fact there is nothing that is not spiritual about any path in physical reality if it is truly in alignment and your path of least resistance. So again, it takes great honesty in investigating the self to know the reasons why you may or may not be choosing a particular path.
So really a big part of our journey is this discernment idea of whether or not you're choosing something out of fear or you're choosing it for a positive reason, and then being so self-honest that you recognize from the feedback you're getting whether or not your definition is accurate if it goes against the collective. And that seems to be the key, right?
In
If
some
you're
sense,
asking,
although it doesn't sometimes even necessarily have to come down to what you would perceive as actually the action of making a choice. Because if you understand how things work and you understand that you are in alignment with yourself and you are following the formula and acting on your passion and not avoiding or invalidating anything, then in a sense, the synchronicity in your life will actually demonstrate to you what your choice is. Automatically, without even necessarily having to consciously, literally make a decision. So the discernment simply comes within the belief system relationship you have within yourself, and clarity within yourself, and transparency within yourself, and honesty within yourself, and letting go of those things that don't serve you so that you don't necessarily have to have difficulty or a struggle in making a choice, but you can understand that your choice will automatically be embedded in the synchronicity that presents itself to you as the choice that will actually serve you best.
yes, so much of our journey is about reading that internal map that is being reflected through synchronicity.
Yes, and again, the positive synchronicity bringing you opportunities that are obvious for you to act on, and the negative synchronicity showing you that there is a doorway you cannot open here, and therefore go in another direction, that this is not your path right now.
And also, it can just make you feel bad when you're making a choice that's not honestly reflective of your higher aligned
There will
state.
always be consequences to the choices that you make.
So, yes, our journey is very interesting.
It is,
And
and very exciting.
and politically, there's such a great divide in our country right now. Is this great divide actually necessary for our awakening as a civilization?
You have deemed that it is. In other words, anything that you are looking at that may be perceived from one perspective as negative is a positive opportunity to understand all the things that are necessary for you to change in your society and within yourselves in order to actually experience the reality that you prefer. So this is how negativity can actually serve a positive purpose, by bringing to your attention the things that need to be addressed in your society in a more positive way.
Well, what is the anti-science consciousness idea reflective of at this stage of our evolution, since previous levels of civilization really had not near the amount of information we have now, and was theirs was more based on superstition or just intuition, and now there seems to be a conflict about whether to believe in science.
Yes, but this is a very large subject that we don't have time to go into at this moment. Putting it very, very simply for the moment, and again, realizing that this is a threshold crossing for many people, you still have to look at this to some degree, even though there may be collective agreement in one side or another, as an individual idea. In other words, on a case-by-case basis, as to the reason why someone may reject the concept of science, because there may be positive and negative reasons for this. This is a very deep and complex subject, and we will go into something like this at a later time. Please proceed with the questions you have at hand.
Okay. And so we've noticed that more people in our civilization are choosing not to have children. Can you comment on how that factors in with what's happening right now as we evolve?
Well, again, the idea is that you are recognizing that you don't necessarily have the systems in place to be able to handle more of a population. It's not that your world is, in a sense, truly overpopulated. It's simply that the systems you have designed are insufficient to handle the growing population, and therefore, intuitively and instinctively, many individuals are slowing down their reproductive processes and waiting for certain changes in your systems to happen, when it becomes more evident in those new systems that it can handle the population that you have, with new ideas of political borders, new ideas of delivery systems, new ideas of tapping into free energy, and all the things that would allow your planet to thrive in a way that is more commensurate with a larger population.